Have you ever seen a creature so desperate to speak, yet no sound came out? This story begins with a tiny puppy, shivering in a dark corner of an abandoned street, opening his mouth again and again to bark, but nothing, no voice, no cry, not even a whisper. It was as if the world had stolen his sound before he ever learned how to use it. But behind his silence was a pain so deep, so heartbreaking, that anyone who looked into his eyes could feel he wasn't just mute, he was carrying a story that no words could ever explain. The puppy was only a few weeks old, small enough to fit in 2 hands, with fur that was once creamy white but now covered in dust. Every time a car passed, he startled and opened his mouth to bark, but all that came out was a painful gasp. He tried again, harder, his tiny chest trembling with effort, but silence followed. Other stray dogs nearby barked, growled, and played, but he only watched, wishing he could join them, wishing he could speak even once. One cold evening, a young woman named Aria walked past the street carrying groceries. As she crossed the corner, she noticed the puppy sitting alone, trembling like a leaf. Something about him felt different. It wasn't just his size or his dirt-covered fur, it was his eyes. They were full of a silent scream. When she approached him slowly, the puppy tried again to bark. His mouth opened wide, but the air carried only silence. His body shook from the effort, and a tiny squeak, almost painful, escaped his throat. Aria instantly knelt down, shocked. "Why can't you bark, little one?" she whispered. As she reached out her hand, the puppy didn't run. Instead, he lowered his head, almost as if apologizing for being broken. She picked him up carefully. He was lighter than she expected, fragile, warm, and scared. She wrapped him in her scarf and rushed home. At her house, she placed him on a soft towel. The puppy's tail wagged weakly as he looked around, confused but hopeful. Aria gave him warm milk with a dropper, and for the first time, he felt a little safe. Yet the silence remained. The next morning, Aria took him to a local vet. The doctor examined him gently and sighed. "He's not mute," the vet explained. "He was hurt. Someone must have grabbed him by the neck or hit him. His vocal cords are damaged. But he's young, maybe with time, care, and love, he might recover." Aria felt her heart tighten. How could someone hurt a creature so small? She looked at the puppy, who stared back at her with innocent eyes, unaware of the cruelty he had faced. She made a promise right then. "I'll help you speak again. Even if it takes months. Even if it never happens, you'll never face pain alone." Days turned into weeks. Aria named him Echo, even though he couldn't make one. She fed him at fixed times, kept him warm, played with him gently, and talked to him every day. Echo wagged his tail every time he heard her voice. He tried again and again to bark, sometimes late at night when he got excited, sometimes in the morning when he wanted food. His mouth opened, his chest puffed, but silence followed. Still, he tried. He never gave up. One afternoon, Aria sat beside him on the rug. "Echo," she said softly, "you don't need a voice to be loved." But Echo, determined and full of hope, tried once more. He pushed his tiny chest, opened his mouth wide. And this time, something happened. A weak, tiny HFF sound came out. Not a bark, not a cry, but a breath with intention. Aria gasped, covering her mouth. "Echo, you made a sound." Echo wagged his tail wildly, jumping in excitement. He tried again, and again, a little HFF, then a slightly louder HHF, like a broken whisper. Tears filled Aria's eyes. It wasn't a perfect bark. It wasn't even close, but it was progress. It was Echo telling the world, "I'm here. I'm alive. I'm trying." Over the next few weeks, Echo grew stronger. He learned to run, play, and trust again. His voice came slowly, in small breaths and tiny squeaks. Each sound he made was a victory. But Echo never barked like other dogs. His voice always stayed soft, fragile, like a reminder of what he had survived. Yet Aria loved him more for it. His silent beginnings became his strength. And one evening, as Aria sat on the porch watching the sunset, Echo curled up beside her. He looked at her with gratitude, opened his mouth, and gave the softest little sound, almost like a whisper of love. It wasn't a bark, but it was enough. Because sometimes, the loudest stories are told in silence.